So I've had the OnePlus 11 5G for a month now, and I have some thoughts. I've always wanted to say that. But it's no secret that OnePlus has alienated and lost many of its dedicated fan base over the past few years. In many ways, I imagine many of you will overlook this device. But what's interesting is that there are aspects of this phone that are arguably as good, if not better, than the Apple iPhone. But will people even notice? And if they do, is it enough to win people over again? And will you click the link in the description to purchase it? We'll find out. This is my review of the OnePlus 11 5G. Before, OnePlus were known for being the flagship killer with flagship specs and a great price. Over the past few years, their relationship with Oppo deepened to the point that they merged last year. Many think that this deepening relationship caused them to lose their identity. It seemed like recent OnePlus devices were made less for its core Western audience and more of a rebrand of Oppo phones made for a different audience. With that, many people gave up and moved on from OnePlus. The OnePlus 11 5G has a lot of work cut out for itself to heal some of those wounds. Interestingly, a representative from OnePlus told me that they're explicitly trying to listen to their users and pivot back to being a flagship killer with the OnePlus 11 5G and streamline the lineup by removing the Pro branding and only making a single top-tier phone. Is this enough to pull that off? We'll find out. But a starting price point of $699 up to $799 is a step in the right direction. Were you expecting that? Let's dive in, starting with the design and build. In a landscape filled with rectangle devices made up of screens, many smartphones have become overly minimalistic and boring outside of something like Vivo or a Google Pixel, which has established a familiar brand identity like Apple. In many ways, the OnePlus 11 5G is no different. It lacks personality in the design. What's funny is that they spent time during my briefing talking about how they changed the camera module from a square to a circle, which makes me wonder, what shape will come next? But that does make me think, is it necessary to change the design every generation, or do you like something like what Google or Apple does? Let me know in the comments. At first glance, the design isn't all that exciting, and the camera module is off-centered, which I know drives many of you insane. I promise, it looks better in person. Plus, there's some really nice refinements when you examine it closer. First, the iconic OnePlus volume rocker is back. Removing it in the previous model is like removing the rice from a rice bowl, forgetting one of your kids and flying out to Paris, or saying that water is wet.
Water's not wet!
It's simply irresponsible and wrong. The top and bottom of the frame are flat, which not only looks unexpectedly great, but allows you to stand the phone up on its own. Along the bottom, you'll find a dual SIM tray. You can use eSIM on the OnePlus 11 5G, but you'll lose an active SIM slot, so your total SIM slots, physical or virtual, are always 2. It is important to know that one of those SIMs may not be T-Mobile. OnePlus told me that the 11 wasn't coming to T-Mobile, at least officially. But these phones usually support several bands, so they'll still work on T-Mobile's network. The question is, to what extent? In my testing, 5G worked and speed seemed normal, but your mileage may vary. And then the matte finish on the black model isn't your typical matte finish that you'd find on an iPhone or Samsung, nor the kind on previous OnePlus phones that had that sandpapery sandstone finish. No, this feels soft and tactile with deeper etches into the material that feel quite fantastic. It's not grippy like the sandstone finish, but soft. Unfortunately, it is not available on the green model, which goes for the fingerprint-prone glossy finish instead. But one downside with this method of finish, it scratches. In the right light, you can see how those deeper etched grooves have started to scrape away, and they do seem permanent, so you may want to use a case. Overall, it is my favorite implementation of a matte finish outside of this one flaw. It has an IP64 rating, which is lower than most other flagships. When asked, OnePlus gave an answer similar to what they stated in the past, and essentially said that it was designed to withstand more, but we haven't sought after a higher certification. Effectively, they designed it to withstand more, but were unwilling to spend the money to verify that it could indeed reach those levels. I do know that IP certifications cost more the higher you go, so there is a bit of cost cutting that allows them to get the price point that they're going after. Still, there is no third-party verification to show that they did indeed succeed at their goal, so take that how you will. Along the front is a 6.7-inch 2K 10-bit 120Hz LTPO display. That means it can dynamically go down to 1 Hz to conserve battery, and it has a peak brightness of 1300 nits, which you really can only see in direct sunlight. It's also Dolby certified, so you can take advantage of a better image and HDR from your favorite streaming services. Practically, the screen looks great and gets nice and bright when needed, with excellent contrast ratios when watching content. It's a good looking screen. Overall, the OnePlus 11 5G feels great with premium materials and the maximum acceptable curve on the screen before it becomes obnoxious. But it's one thing to talk about materials and build, it's another thing to talk about what it's like to use. First, you have to talk about the software, which has some incredible highs and a severe low for me. Overall, the performance of the device is fast and smooth. It uses the newest Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 with a more robust cooling system than before. But the reality is that most processors for the past few years have been more than enough for what we use them for and should run well for a while. OnePlus continues to optimize the software well, so it runs as fast as you would expect from them. And there are neat features like a performance mode for gaming and some RAM optimizations. They've even committed to 4 years of Android OS updates and 5 years of security updates every other month. Things could be better. There is one situation that has been concerning. I quickly experienced a significant lag within the first few days of using the OnePlus 11 5G on a clean install. It involved the YouTube app, where I experienced extreme touch response lag. This has happened multiple times, regardless of a restart or not. At times it gets so bad that the app crashes. This lag will sometimes bleed into other areas outside of the YouTube app. I asked others if they had experienced this, and they said that they haven't, or they don't really use YouTube too much, so they're not sure. And yes, I checked. It doesn't happen on any of my other Android devices. So I'm still determining whether this is an isolated experience or more widespread, but we'll find out as some of you get your devices into your own hands. What sets it apart and beats out anything Samsung or Google has done is the haptics. The OnePlus 11 5G has by far the best haptics system on any Android phone to date, and they even have a demo available that you can open that shows off its capabilities, and it's quite shocking how precise, deep, and nuanced it can get. This is quite different from the haptics that come out of most Chinese brands that feel loose and floppy, so it manages to give the OnePlus 11 a more premium feel in an experiential way. Max Weinbeck and I were talking about this, and we both believe that it is as good, if not better, than the haptics on the Apple iPhone, which is seriously a very high bar and a compliment. I love it. As for sound, they say that they're all in on Dolby, which I'm not entirely sure what that means, but the sound can speak for itself. So let's bust out the ears and you tell me how it compares. Now, I could not help but notice how wide and clear the audio is on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. There's just certain things I could hear that I didn't hear on the other devices. I do think there might be a little bit more low end on the OnePlus 11 5G, but that comes with a consequence. Because it's trying to push so much out of the speaker, you can actually hear it kind of compressing and pumping, so it actually sounds like it's not as clear compared to the Samsung Galaxy. Also, the iPhone was clearly louder. Personally, if the sound quality out of my phone matters a lot, I would choose the iPhone. But speaking of audio, I am an audio engineer and I do have the OnePlus Buds Pro 2. And I'm gonna, where are the earbuds for these? They fell out. Oh my God. And I have a full review of them, so go ahead and check it out in the link down below in the description. Battery life on the OnePlus 11 5G is typical and lasts you through the day on regular use. Its standby battery life though is insane. It hardly lost a single % for hours. That is unreal. It comes with an 80-watt fast charger that can charge the 5000 milliamp battery from 0 to 100% in 27 minutes, which is quite nice. You can utilize a supported 100-watt charger, likely from Oppo, to get an even faster charge. This super fast charging is quite common in many other phones that don't usually make it to the US, so this is nice to see. What is curious is that the charger moved from a USB-C to C cable to a USB-A to USB-C cable. When asked about this, OnePlus stated that their market research showed that people preferred the USB-A option more because USB-C wasn't ubiquitous enough, so they ran into issues with not being able to plug it into something like in a hotel room. The question is whether or not this market research was performed on Western audiences. That could have a notable impact on the results. That brings us to the continued trend that OnePlus devices do not have wireless charging. Their market research showed that people prefer fast charging over wireless charging. I did ask this question in a Twitter poll, which proved to be consistent with the research, but also revealed a difference in preference depending on demographics. Interestingly, in Western audiences, it seemed more preferred than others. Still, the nuance is found in how an ecosystem of multiple devices that can wirelessly charge provides a practical quality of life benefit. Having a single device that doesn't support it amongst every other device that does is rather, well, inconvenient. Thanks to Michael Fisher for pointing that out. The absence of wireless charging is undoubtedly curious, seeing how the OnePlus Buds Pro 2 support wireless charging. It's also not even that expensive to add to a device. If we're to get to the root of everything, why does it even have to be a choice between one or the other?
¿Por qué no los dos?
Everything about the battery and charging gives me an overall feeling that this is still a phone that isn't made specifically for Western audiences, despite their desire for it to be so. Oh, the OnePlus camera. I'll be honest, I've never expected a ton of it in the past, and I didn't expect a lot of it now, despite the Hasselblad branding. Often, these co-brandings don't mean much more than a certification paid for or some branding on the phone, some filters, and in some settings like the Pro mode, and that's all intended to boost credibility. When I asked about the depth of Hasselblad's involvement in the camera, OnePlus stated that Hasselblad helped provide software optimizations for natural color calibration and guidance for the portrait mode and 2x mode to match what they see on their own lenses and cameras for that use case. That means that Hasselblad was not involved in the hardware, which is different from what you would see from options like Vivo, where their Zeiss partnership adds lens coatings to help reduce glare. And when testing out the camera, a deeper partnership like that would certainly help, as lens flares are one of the weaker areas of the camera, especially on the ultra-wide lens. But as a whole, I generally like it. It truly shines in outdoor environments with beautiful colors and great detail. The way it handles golden hour is gorgeous. The macro lens is solid, and the night shots are pretty good where it manages to keep up with the best out there. My skin tone is acceptable, if not a bit magenta, and it does struggle when you're backlit compared to front or side lit situations, especially on the front-facing camera. This would be fine for controlled conditions where you can reposition your lighting or talent, and that's something that experienced photographers and videographers know how to navigate. But the phone needs to be good enough for the average user. Colors are also inconsistent between lenses. Which one is different will vary depending on the environment, as I've seen different combinations outside compared to inside. Typically, I'll see more magenta shifts on the ultra-wide and main lens while inside compared to the telephoto lens. More often than not, I do like the color of the 2x tele more than other lenses, but I wish it was more than 2x, as it feels like I still need to get closer to the subject. Honestly, 4 to 5x should be the minimum. Colors are more boosted on the OnePlus compared to something like a Pixel, despite the aim for a more natural look. It looks good in some situations, but can prove to be problematic in others. Whether this matters to you depends on whether you want it to be social media ready or more natural looking. When I look at pictures of my cats between the OnePlus 11 and the Pixel, the reality of the color is found between the two. I'm curious, do you want a full-on camera comparison? If so, let me know in the comments. As for the video, it's okay, but not as good as something that you'd see on like an iPhone or Samsung device. There are some neat options like a low contrast log color profile in the Pro mode, which looks washed out, but you can color grade it to make it look nicer. How does our color graded version compare to the default color? It also has a dual camera option that allows you to capture the front facing camera and the rear facing camera, making it easy to vlog on your phone. But really, the strength is found more in the photos than in video. But let me know what you think of the photos and video samples. So when it comes down to it, all these goals and marketing talk that they've shared, has OnePlus pulled it off? Have they returned to their roots, returned to their fans, and become a true flagship killer again that you should check out? Well, it hits more than it misses. But what made OnePlus notable was not only the flagship specs and affordable price, but also the attitude, culture, and community that isn't there anymore. It has gone corporate, so to speak. So what they have left are specs and price. In many ways, the things you'd hope for and want in a OnePlus device are definitely there, and it's worth a look because it's a solid phone that I enjoy using quite a bit. It even leads the industry amongst its Android peers in some ways, but expect it to have a different OnePlus soul than it used to. One could say that it's slowly slipped away into, well, nothing. Pricing for the OnePlus 11 5G is $699 for the 8GB RAM and 128GB storage option, and $799 for the 16GB RAM 256 storage option. The higher tier option has a faster UFS 4.0 RAM, while the lower tier has a UFS 3.1 RAM. At that price, it is common to associate with the Pixel 7, which some argue gets better images. But it's important to note that they are on different tiers when you consider everything outside of the camera. Still, it would surely make a splash to see it start at $599 to go head-to-head with the Pixel 7. If you'd like to pick it up, the obligatory links in the description apply, and while you're at it, make sure to subscribe and watch my review of the OnePlus Buds Pro 2, which should be out shortly or already by the time you're watching this. Full disclosure, OnePlus did supply the OnePlus 11 5G to me to keep and review, but no money has exchanged hands. They had no editorial control in this review and are seeing it at the same time as you. Instead, this video is sponsored by NordVPN. Hey, are you tired of feeling vulnerable when you're online? Do you worry about exposing your data and being tracked online? NordVPN can help. With over 5,000 servers in 60 countries, NordVPN is a virtual private network service that encrypts your internet connection and hides your online activity. You can browse the web confidently and securely, knowing your data is protected. NordVPN allows you to access content from all over the world without worrying about censorship or geo-restriction. Plus, NordVPN has a strict no-logs policy, so you can be sure that your online activity will remain private. But NordVPN isn't just about protecting your online privacy. It offers a wide range of other benefits. NordVPN has a dedicated IP option, which means you can have a unique static IP address that's only assigned to you. This can be useful for online banking, accessing certain websites, or bypassing IP-based restrictions. NordVPN also has a double VPN feature, which routes traffic through 2 servers instead of 1 for extra security. So why wait? Protect yourself online with NordVPN today and enjoy the security and freedom of the internet. Whether you're at home, at work, or on the go, NordVPN has you covered. Try it out for yourself and see the difference. Click the link in the description or go to nordvpn.com/tech today to get an exclusive discount plus 1 month free. Thanks for watching. This is Tech Today. Until next time.